加油！
Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves for the final day of regular season play in HGC China. Next week, we're gonna kick things off with, of course, the playoffs in a best-of-5 map format with a ladder format as well, which means we're gonna start at the bottom and then we're gonna move up slowly with the winner always facing the next step. Tetcher, how's it going today?
It is going fantastic. I am prepared for our final day of regular season play, like you said, before the playoffs. And for those who weren't watching yesterday, we had a not a surprising victory, but a victory with really interesting results when it came to the mid-season brawl. Is that not right, Kendrick?
Yeah, that is absolutely right. We have CE now confirmed as the first participating team from China at the mid-season brawl. Whether they will come in as China's first seed or second seed, of course, that still remains to be seen. However, regardless of their outcome or of their performance in the playoffs, even if they end up losing their one match they have to play, they're still going to be second seed at the very worst case scenario for them. The second seed and the other final results have yet to be decided, of course. That will take place next week, as we said. For now, though, we're going to take a look at the current standings so you guys get a nice overview of what all these 9 weeks of regular season play have done to HGC China in 2018.
Correct. Here you can see, once again, this is a best of 2 is how it's described. I prefer to call it a 2-game series format. Yeah. Here is our roster. Here are our roster for the team. You can see CE, like we already mentioned, 3 points ahead of SBT, and the maximum amount of points acquirable today is 2. So it is impossible for CE to be dethroned at the top. However, there are still many battles to be had, and we're going to have TheOne versus the up-and-coming, re-rising like a phoenix emerging from the depths of the open division, KT. Sunnyline versus Soa, little battle for Sunnyline for some desperate last-minute points. CE in tried to crush the dreams of RPG a little bit more, and then the highlight of the day, SBT versus the reinvigorated Beyond the Game.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, like Tetra and I, we had a little discussion before the stream started, and we said that out of all the teams, Beyond the Game is looking like the most professional, the most hungry, the hungriest team available in the league, because they really seem to be putting a lot of effort and time into how they prepare for the games, how they approach the games, and then of course how they execute and play these games. Yesterday, when they played Sunnyline, true, that is a team that is currently sitting at the very bottom of the table, but boy did they dismantle them, to the point where they were actually dismantling them harder and faster than CE and SBT did. And that already shows you.
SBT tried to cheese them, and they were still slower than BTG.
Exactly. So here, of course, we have our predictions for the first series of the day, and both commentators, Yaya on the left-hand side and her lovely colleague on the right-hand side, whose name we have yet to know, to find out, leaning towards TheOne. These guys here with star players like Hugo, Meng, ZJC, Hihi, and Lucky, who showed up big time yesterday.
Lucky has really jumped onto everyone's radar at this point, earning MVP for the HGC Minute last week before last, one of those two, and really deserving it. His Hanzo is something to be absolutely feared.
Yeah, and not only is he a strong Hanzo player, but in general, he seems to be that guy who always fills in the gap that the other teammates leave him in. So depending on the playstyle, depending on the strategy of their draft, he can mostly just pick a hero that adds in so nicely. We saw a strong Falstad there as well yesterday. His Hanzo, as Tetra said earlier, is quite the sight to behold.
Here are their opponents. Kudos top KT with Hope, Kaitu, TWT, Lycia, and Zism. We keep consistently talking up 2 of these players specifically, Kaitu and Lycia. Kaitu really just dominating on certain heroes, but Hope, unusual player here. He's been bringing out a Lunara from time to time to deal with the Medivh. Medivh has dropped out the meta now, but he also is, being one of the ranged carries for his team, a very impactful player.
Yeah, very true. But back to the guy we already touched upon earlier. It is Lucky, today's key player in this matchup between KT and TheOne. And we already saw in his match history that his Falstad was victorious yesterday indeed. And he was basically the one reason, in my opinion, you know, his team stayed in the game there, no puns intended, because those gusts were always needed, even when the opposing team was already getting a good grip on those engages. And sometimes that's all you need. One good heroic ability, one good disengage, and you're in the game. You can even take the lead and bounce back.
Yeah, all of those big CC abilities can either sort of be, like, it's, if we compare it to, say, Mosh Pit, there is the common saying with Mosh Pit of it only takes one. If you're an ETC and you don't use your mosh pit all game, but the one mosh pit you do gets 3 people or 4 people, then that could be a game-ending mosh pit, and that is the whole point of it. Gust is even harder than that due to the fact that it could also lose you the game if you use it ineffectively, which is why seeing a player use it well is really cool to see.
Yeah, you bring up a solid point, right? With those big playmaking abilities, like you said, the Mosh Pit or the Twilight Dream. Yeah, sure, sometimes it gets interrupted or you get even prevented from casting it in the first place. But as you said, you very rarely have those moments where one Mosh Pit is going to lose you the game. Whereas with a Gust, that could very well happen if you put the enemy team into a even more favorable position, for example, or if you ruin an engagement for your teammates. For now, though, we're going to compare these two teams. 5.8 is the KDA of TheOne. We have 4.9 for their opponents. But as you can see, kills on average per game are fairly close with 10-9. So, you know, KT has really been growing so much over the last few days and weeks. And it wouldn't be completely out of the realms of possibility for them to maybe take a map even. Or if things go really crazy and TheOne is completely caught off guard, maybe take the whole series.
Quite possibly, but we see KT starting off with a map that they can't exactly be cheesed on too much. It is going to be the Towers of Doom bringing us in here, and this map is super hard to snowball on, so this is a perfect map for KT with their kind of aggressive style to try and make comebacks on.
Yeah, and you speak of cheese, right? It's so hard to talk about cheese when you deal with TheOne, because on the one hand, you could say, like, are they this weird Shaolin apprentice that just comes up with a completely new technique and all the other students are like, what the hell is he doing? But somehow it seems to work. Or are they the seasoned kung fu master who's been doing things like China has always done them, playing aggressive, playing straight on to the enemy team's face? And that style has somehow been forgotten in China, with them focusing more on adapting to the international meta, trying to get more macro play in there. It's a really cute thing when we talk about TheOne and their playstyle, right?
That it is. That it is. But KT already starting off with a more standard ban, removing the Genji. If they pick up Greymane now, I'm going to be quite happy with KT.
Yeah. They go for the Stukov and the Tychus. Already we see something that I sometimes miss from Chinese teams, or teams in general who face a Garrosh. A heavy focus on at least one reliable percentage damage source. And Tychus, of course, is exactly that, right? Not only the Tychus, though, but also the Silence. If you prevent Garrett from casting his protective abilities, from saving an enemy, for example, then oftentimes you will have a much easier time of shutting them down.
So we see the Tracer coming in for TheOne. Now, I don't know if that is the main hero here. That would make it very interesting.
It is, I think, yeah.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure how many times he's played it. That is the question mark I have above my head, but it does potentially show that he's willing to do stuff. I'm thinking Lucky. I thought it was Lucky who played the Tracer on the team, but I'll be interested to double check that right now.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about TheOne. Sometimes their drafting patterns are really hard to predict because both of their assassin players, ranged assassin players I should say, sometimes have overlapping hero pools, but if I recall correctly, it used to be Meng who was playing the Tracer for the most part.
Meng has a couple Tracer games, so yeah, this could certainly be a Meng hero. He may very heavily lean to Greymane and Genji, but the Tracer is in his pool. It's his 5th most played hero behind Valor and Cassia.
And KT isn't wasting any time here. They come up with an immediate response here to that early Tracer reveal. They go for the Varian, and they go for a Zeratul as well. Now, Varian, of course, we all know how he's supposed to counter Tracer, right? He's going to throw down those taunts and lockdowns. Zeratul, on the other hand, he's a little more tricky and subtle when it comes to dealing with the Tracer. He can oftentimes land a VP, only to find Tracer isolated and then execute her.
Zeratul's job is to burst Tracer, either grab her before and burst her down before she has a chance to blink or recall, or the job is to follow her. Wormhole is not Wormhole, Vorpal Blade, the base ability he has now, is super good for following a Tracer when she tries to escape.
Yeah, absolutely true. Couldn't agree more. Now, Tracer, is she going to be dependent solely on Malfurion, or are they willing to pick another additional support into this? We see SBT sometimes come up with a Tassadar for additional burst protection, which is something that could be needed, as you said, Tetcher. Zeratul very good at bursting her down. Varian, of course, lays the foundation with a good taunt. But no, they rely on a solo Malfurion, which is doable. We have seen it times and times again. And they go for Thrall plus Falstad. So, Tetcher, this is our first time. Mark that in your calendars that we're going to see Hugo on Thrall. We have never seen him play this hero before.
You are correct. They have not played Thrall at all with this roster, so super interesting to see. Yeah. They're finally following it in the footsteps of CE, bringing out the Green Jesus. And now let's see if they can make it work as well as CE have been able to do, most consistently with Zuyu.
And the thing is, I can only imagine what a mechanical mastermind like Hugo can actually make work on that Thrall, right? Are we going to see Crash Lightning build, or are we going to see a more standard Echo of the Element builds when Thrall decides to go for the Soul lane, which could be a thing. Like, the weird thing about the draft, or the beautiful thing about the draft, by the one, is as well that it's so hard to read. Falstad, we all know how strong of a Soul laner he can be. Thrall could as well just fulfill that role, though, so not really sure what to expect here yet.
I would hope Echoes, because the map is terrible for Crash Lightning, so I would hope that as KT... Looks like all of these teams are taking example from our number one seed, the Stitches coming out for KT. Looks like it's Lycia bringing that out as well. I would have thought he'd be on the Zeratul KT, potentially with more role swaps.
Yeah, either they have someone else, putting on the Stitches shoes, or it is going to be Lycia indeed, as you said. And I love the Stitches. We've said it so many times in the past. Whenever China plays Stitches, especially in Towers of Doom, which seems to be one of his strongest, if not the strongest map around, then they normally perform quite well. And you drew a really nice parallel to CE, right? CE seems to really be the influencing team on the region. Other teams are trying to copy them. They're trying to mimic them.
How do you survive a hook against this team? Hook, silence, taunt for
hard.
Good measure? I don't think you can, unless you're Tracer and you can recall before the taunt comes out, or before the silence from Stukov comes out. I think you're dead. I think this is just a 100% guaranteed kill comp, and then it's a situation of if the person who is engaged on could stay alive long enough for the rest of the ones to turn up and try and take a team fight.
Yeah, I mean, if the combos land perfectly here for KT, like the hook into the roots, into the minigun, variant taunt, it is almost guaranteed that this target is going to fall, especially since Malf doesn't have a pure cleanse. He can only counter stuns effects like that, but not hooks. Here we go, though, with the one on the left-hand side with Hugo on Thrall, Lucky on Falstad, Meng is playing the Tracer, ZJZ on Malf, and Hehe on that main tank on the Garrosh.
And on the right-hand side, slightly lower in the table, but looking to earn those points, it's Kudos top, with Hope on Zeratul, Kaitu on Varian, TWT on Stukov, Lycia on the Stitches, and Zizm is playing the Tychus.
All right, so how well is the one going to play around this? They need to be super careful when it comes to dodging hooks early on. Of course, you're making yourself a beautiful hook target if you end up channeling. Here goes the first one into the silence as well. Sorry, that was
what did I say?
That was absolutely beautiful.
What did I say? How do you live that? How do you survive that as the one? They have no cleanse that is effective against the double silence composition of KT. Nature's Cleanse cannot pre-cleanse hook. They have no way to survive if they get hit by the hooks. Their only chance is to dodge.
Exactly, and this fact alone oftentimes renders Stitches a beautiful Malfurion counter, right? Malfurion is oftentimes countered by either heavy burst damage or strong CC abilities that he cannot cleanse. Temporal Loop, for example, by Chromie is one of those abilities. Then, of course, we have the hook. As you said, you cannot pre-cleanse, which you can do with heroes like Uther or Rhaegar. And already the combos go down here. TWT on that Stukov. He's going to be the main follow-up after a hook. Then, of course, followed up by the minigun. Tyka's probably going to try to keep that ready at all times. And already, KT, after first blood and getting a little bit of a boost in motivation and confidence, are going for their own mercenary camp. With heroes like Stukov and Tychus, they can, of course, shred those zappers like there was no tomorrow. But already, their opponents are going for the exact same thing.
I wonder what the fastest first blood in HGC history is, because it's either that or when Dahaka tunneled mid and dragged a Falstad who flew mid. I think that was Dignitas were involved in that game, but I can't remember what way round.
Do you remember last year when we had Soa play on Brax's holdout? I forget which opponent it was, and Uncle G had this weird haunting wave over the wall. That could have also been it.
Yeah, that was... I mean, they spent a little bit attacking the tower before they did that.
Oh,
so
here's another one.
Root, silence, and dead. That is going to keep happening. And the one, they have to stay behind your minions. You need to stay alive.
And you know what, Tetcher? I don't think this is a playstyle that TheOne is used to playing against, right? So few teams in China actually rely on the Stitches. So few teams play on Towers of Tomb in the first place. So not only did they go, oh, look at that. This time Tracer was fast enough, though. Meng already spamming those keys. But here's another advantage of Stuko. We see it right there. The Lurking Arm Silence prevents the Zappers from actually going ham on those structures, on those towers. So no matter how you put it, the fact that KT chose this battleground already tells you how well they were prepared.
Apparently it was Goku dragging Rich. Good to know, thank you, Chan. As we see Lythia pulling back. Hook, just out of range. You can see Stukov, though. He's attempting to pre-position his Lurking Arm and then Stitches drag in. Stitches, by the way, with the amplified healing, it's like armor, but worse. As he brings it in. But it's still good for Stitches, who is a very sustaining and has a self-heal as well. So it's still pretty good.
Yeah, what's also really nice about the Stitches here is the fact that he was going for the right targets, right? Tracer, if she's fast enough, if Meng is fast enough, they can always go for the recall or a dash to the side. But Thrall has none of these escape mechanisms, right? So going for Thrall seems like a smart idea. Look at that. They're focusing on big Stitches. The retaliation hook doesn't come through, unfortunately, but they cannot hope to burst him down just like that. They don't have the percentage damage. They don't have the early game burst damage.
Stitches, though, gets a taste of his own medicine and gets displaced into the enemy team and absolutely destroyed with no chance of escape, thanks to some lovely body blocks. Now Kaito in trouble, lurking up, and he attempts to turn around. Big damage on Tahiti, but at this point, the shots are already taken. And Falstad doing his own side. He can actually afford to move over and attempt to interrupt Hope, but he's not going to take it. He's happy with the 2-1, moves back up the top lane, begins soaking.
That already is a good thing, of course. TheOne, although they suffered a couple of losses earlier, they were at least able to take the slight lead in terms of core HP. Now Varian in trouble. He has, of course, the parry. Gets flung back by his rival Garrosh. Is he going to get healed in time? Yes. DWT is here to help Kaito in need. Can he even turn it around?
They were thinking about it. Stitches is there, but get dodged. Also, being an ex-journalist, I am used to retractions. Apparently, it was Quacknick's Goku, and that is the last I'm going to say on the matter. As we see Hope hovering around the area, looking to... He's been doing a pretty good job in this solo lane, honestly, without being a dedicated solo lane hero, having that kind of self-sustain. Just using the threat of invisibility, always useful when you're in a solo lane.
Are you sure it wasn't SCSC?
No idea. No.
I'm just kidding. No worries. All right, level 7 is here. Let's take a look at some of the talents here. Thrall actually going for a rather interesting one. We are normally used to seeing either Ancestral Wrath or hold that thought, follow through. Stitch is in trouble. Alicia ends up getting healed, but no way he can get out of that. And Hugo survives, it seems. No grenade ready, and TheOne is in a commanding lead in that team fight.
Lucky finds a new way of flying, getting tossed by the Garrosh, and they're able to pick up yet another kill onto Stukov, and that is 3 kills to 0, as Lucky takes a huge amount of damage, but is going to survive.
Yeah, that was the first shown sign of life here for TheOne. They turned this fight beautifully here. They pressured exactly the right people here when they needed to. So yeah, looking strong up to this point. By the way, Thrall, as we touched upon earlier, he did indeed go for the Crash Lightning, something that I'm okay with. I know a lot of people are kind of disrespecting the talent in the build these days, but I think it has its place, especially when you manage to get in longer skirmishes near those altars.
I guess. I don't know. I still am a bit cautious about it. We will see if he can make it work. Second Wind coming in for Varian along with Overpower at level 1, moving away from the full Q build that seems to have dominated recently. And Stitches, one of my favorite talents in the game, because I have a oh, hang on, Tychus in serious trouble, dashing back through, no heal available from TWT, and Tychus goes down. Very nice kill. But yeah, Stitches, I'm a sucker for infinitely stacking talents, and he goes for Savor the Flavor. Every time he uses his Devour on an enemy hero, he gets an extra 2 health regen per second, which is also going to be amplified by that fight healing as Kaitu helping hand, and Kaitu is slightly safer, but Meng wanting to give chase but can't do it, cannot finish the job.
Yeah, very lovely done here. Stitches, of course, not only a great team fight engager if he hooks an enemy team member in there, but also a great lifesaver if he has the helping hand available for an ally in need. And in that case, Varian is probably going to be very happy about the fact that he was able to escape Tracer. Funnily enough, the hero he was supposed to counter is right now countering him a little bit. Kaitu, by the way, going for second wind at level 7. No victory rush, no Lionheart. He's going for the most basic of self-sustain, which of course caters towards his auto attacks, regenerating a little bit of health. Keep in mind though, guys, second wind on Varian is a very interesting lifesteal talent. It does not work with his basic attack damage, but with his maximum health.
Which is interesting. Kind of cool. Stitches seeing if he can find someone. No fishing hook yet, so not able to find anyone fishing-wise. He is going to go fishing hook, almost certainly, due to the current build he has. He doesn't miss out on one of the most important slam talents, because he's not going for the slam build. Gorge most likely to be picked up here by Stitches, but there is a potential for the Putrefile. But Gorge, I think, with the build they're going for, no, it is Putrefile, so they are going for a full team fight, as opposed to the Void Prism / Gorge isolation style that could net them even more kills. Varian finds himself isolated, immediately taunts onto Hugo, blocks the Maelstrom weapon. Twilight Dream is dropped, as is the Earthquake taunt onto Zeratul as they turn it back round. Gus separates out the backline away from the front line as the double spell comes out from Gareth, putting Lycia in the tough position as he goes down, and the counter kill is just not coming from KT. Zizm in full retreat. Is the armor enough to save him? No, it isn't. Counter taunt, silence not in time. Zeratul, one last chance, finally just able to wormhole back to save him.
Yeah, now things are starting to look dicey here for KT. They started off so strong in that game, but in that teamfight we could really see the value of Garrosh here, constantly stunning and slowing multiple people. Foster, of course, with a really nice gust. We mentioned Lucky as one of the key players for the one this time. His fall set has been on fleek yesterday. It is doing work today as well. Here comes a hook, but Unstoppable, of course, prevents Hihi from suffering any follow-up damage. And Kaitu, unfortunately, as good as a Varian is against Tracer and other targets like Thrall who get a little bit too aggressive, right now the follow-up damage isn't really there. And as long as there are 5 versus 5 team fights happening all the time, you can't really hope to curse those targets unless you get a deadly hook. Kassaker, speaking of proving me wrong.
Sometimes you just need to wait for your opponent to step out of position and land an easy hook. The fact is, they have been taking rough fights. They've been trying to take head-on fights when their comp is a pick comp. And that is why TheOne have managed to get themselves this quick lead. But KT, if they just play it safe, find their time and actually land hooks, they have the chance to turn it around. In they come, fighting underneath the bell tower here. Hugo getting tossed away by Hihi with the Into the Fray to keep him safe. The Warlord's challenge onto Stitches, but Putrefile will keep him safe as Falstad wraps around, trying to isolate Lycia. And seeing as the bell tower is now targeting him as well, Lycia will certainly fall here.
Yeah, that was so well done here by Lucky, realizing, you know what, we're going to commit to this one-man gust because, as you said, the bell tower was still firing at Stitches as well, slowing him down and, of course, dealing very nice, consistent damage. Now, with their main tank being gone, KT will have to wait a little bit longer. I don't even think they can even hope to contest this bottom altar because the bell tower is still in the enemy team's hand, and that will of course slow down the KT's advance there as well. So this should go relatively uncontestedly into the hands of TheOne. Now, can they actually get the channel through? Yes, it seems. So it's going to be 5 shots, bring them down to straight 15. KT is already starting to struggle.
They have the comeback potential. Their comp is perfect for making comebacks. But look at that wraparound by Hihi. The 3-man Warlord's challenge. Quick blow up with the Twilight Dream. And Lycia is left alone. Hook just short. Varian arrives just in time to be late. And as such, the Sappers are now on the way in. Stitches can't stop this.
Yeah, I don't think he can. He's all by himself. A lonely Stitches, a lonely Abomination. What are you going to do? Here you go. 3 additional shots onto the core of KT. And can we just say, Tetra, how well that was executed by TheOne, especially Hihi, man. He always finds those good angles. He always goes for these unexpected flanks. And then finally, more Twilight Dream play. It looks like more Chinese teams have awoken of the Emerald Dream, and they're now abandoning the Tranquility to be picked in every single game. And while Tranquility is still a pretty good heroic ability, if you pick it as a standard go-to, you're missing out on all these killing opportunities, like we just saw here. ZJZ with a beautiful 3-man silence, securing 2 kills, and ultimately securing 3 more core shots.
And bottom bell tower is going down again. Lycia accidentally delivers a Sapper to his own bell tower there. There's the silence a little bit late. Tor Warlord's challenge once again. He please finds yet another angle. Falls down for good measure. Mighty Gust back. Zizm is down. Lycia may even fall as well. There's the counter talk from KT to stop himself being thrown back into the enemy team. Hope drops the Void Prism, but still gets blown up. Doesn't catch Meg. And yeah, this is a 5v2 now. Both the tanks, the only survivors. Hugo, Meg, sorry, even dives the point there, even dives the death zone to try and get Lycia. Can't get the kill, but they're so far ahead now.
Yeah, all they need is 3 altars. That's exactly what they need to end the game here right now. There would be 15 shots with the bottom bell tower still being in the ones per session. And already He's trying to posture up. Meng and Hugo are following suit. Can they do it? Zeratul is actually still dead. He's going to have to wait another 3 seconds. He's not having the Void Prism ready. It was just used a few moments ago.
And DJZ channel in. And Falstad just calmly walks to the other side. He didn't even fly. He feed back and then walked. Channels it in. And that is GG. Game number 1 goes over to the 1.
And that it goes with a beautiful display, actually, by the one. I think after struggling a little bit in the earlier stages of the game, they came back in spectacular fashion, just executing those plays like it has been something they've been doing every day, every week. And you know what? After KT picking this map and starting off so strongly with the Stitches picks over and over again, I thought this could have been their moment to shine. But as time went by, the one stabilized, and they seemed to be aware of what was going on.
Yeah, the one put on a full show there. They dominated the map itself, and that went really well for them. They were able to control bottom lane, which is the classic move there. And after that, it was just a situation of rotating the exact same route over and over again and getting them every single time.
Yeah, and the thing is also, I think a major difference in how successful the teams were able to play on Towers of Doom in the first place was Falstad and Zeratul. Both basically fulfilled the role of a double soaker. Now, normally, Falstad does that a little better because of his global, as long as the 4-man-4, the 4 versus 4 ends up getting into a 5 versus 4, right? So he can join in before Zeratul can. As long as the stale battle of clearing the lanes, Zeratul should actually have a slight upper hand because he is a mount, Falstad does not. So he should be able to clear those lanes quicker and then move back to the other lane faster. But the moment the team fighting situation escalates and the one was turning on the heat, Falstad could join way sooner than Zeratul. And that's what happened multiple times, Hope arriving too late to the party when everything was already burning and being covered in ash, and there was nothing for him to salvage anymore.
You've arrived at the party, the keg's already emptied on the floor, someone's attempted to jump off it and do a flip. It's that point of the party where everyone's like, okay, yeah, we should go home.
Yeah.
That's the point Falstad is already... That's the point. Falstad's already been there for 10 minutes. It's absolutely disastrous.
All right. The question is, can KT bounce back? Can they tie out this series? If I'm not mistaken, it would be the end of the world if they weren't able to win this in terms of points, because they already made sure to get a nice chunk of points for themselves the last couple of days ago. Potential will, of course, provide you with more points and better statistics.
What one was that a question about?
KT. Like, if they end up losing this, would it be the end of the world for them, or would it be okay?
Soa could overtake them.
So that would make them 6th place?
5th place. KT are currently in 5th place ahead of Soa, and it would make Soa 6th place. If KT don't gain a single point, then if Soa 2-0s, they will overtake them. If KT win this next one, then they could, in theory, tie themselves with
So it is quite important after all, because as we found out yesterday, even... Oh, look at this guy, by the way. Glorious flanks, glorious gangs, and, of course, masterful taunts. In fact, we can say that for this time, the Garrosh taunt reigns supreme over the variant taunt. The Horde shall prevail in this one, at least. So, yeah, well played by Hehe. It's nice to see him on the MVP post, because normally it's players like Lucky or Hugo taking away the cake, or Meng, of course, we also have to mention him. So it's nice for the tank player of the one to get some credit as well. But yeah, back to what we were saying earlier. 5th place is the magical border that you need to cross, because in the playoffs, if you're 6th place and you lose your first game, you're going to drop down to 7th place because the other team is going to overtake you, and then all of a sudden, you're going to find yourself in the Crucible.
Braxis holdout.
Yes,
KT,
baby.
they're wanting to sneak a point. For starters, this is important for the One as well. If the One can beat KT again, they will be 1 point ahead of SPT, meaning that if SPT lose a single match versus BTG, those two will be tied in second place. I have no idea how we decide who gets first in that case, but that is the possibility. The One need these points to try and put themselves in a great position versus SPT, making it so they only have to win one game to make it into the Crucible as opposed to two, or not the Crucible, into the mid-season brawl as opposed to two. And KT, if they win this, they will have made it so that Soa can also only tie them, and KT will be at least slightly, probably tiebreaker-wise, secured in that safety spot of position number 5.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a glorious